Yo, yo, thanks for tuning in to the Maniacal Pod Talk. I'm your host, Brian, Murph in the Streets. Mike, listen, if y'all haven't heard this beat in the car yet, turn it up. Go ahead and play that intro, Mike. All right, again, thanks for tuning in to the Maniacal Pod Talk. You know, today we're going to talk about something that I'm kind of passionate about, something fun for me, and I hope that it educates you. Um, so let's really go ahead, just jump straight into it, right? Because I don't think this is going to be a very long episode. I like short shows. Anyway, so on one of the past episodes, I did talk about this office job that I got, right? I work for this company. It's called Zero. And pretty much what we do there is we help school employees that aren't teachers get health insurance, supplemental insurance, and things like that. Nothing pretty. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but a brother do what he got to do right now to do what he need to do right now. So, make a long story short, last week we had to go to a seminar over at Worthington Kilbourne. And when we went into this environment, it was really about the teachers learning and the janitors learning and the school lunch people learning what they needed to do to prepare for retirement. And it was really the most interesting thing because sitting there listening to the numbers that they got to pay attention to, the years that they need to work in order to retire, just the intricacies on what's necessary to get to the point to where they can get a little bit of money each month. I've started to feel kind of depressed because when it comes to that topic, I know me personally, I'm a little behind the eight ball, but just sitting there, I'm like, there was an old lady. I want to say her husband had passed, and she was telling a story about how she thinks she'll be working till she's like 85, 90 years old. And the reason was because for some reason, she gets her husband's, I don't know if it was Social Security or his retirement, whatever the case was, she gets his check, and that will stop as soon as she retired. And I'm sitting there listening to this lady. She already was just an old little frail thing. And I'm like, this little lady is going to be working until she's 85, 90. And it made me think about, the Walmart workers, the Meijer workers. When you go in, you got these old people, but these people are working because they don't have a choice because the retirement isn't set up the way that it needs to be set up. And so I'm walking out of this place. I learned a lot sitting there, and it really started to make me think like, yo, with all the information that's out there today, and I always get irritated with the public school system. Of course, I'm a graduate of Beechcroft, 2003, tell my age, but they didn't teach us how to manage our finances. They didn't teach us really how to make money. They didn't really teach us anything that's substantial for life. And I'm walking away thinking after this meeting, like, yo, like, we're just so ill prepared for anything that's coming our way. What are we supposed to do with this stuff? And so I kind of want to talk about a lot of these things today, right? So what are some of the easy things we can do to kind of prepare for retirement? And this sounds crazy that I'm even saying that because my dad always tell me, you should be worried about your retirement. And the reality is I should be worried about my retirement, but I always say like, that's not the lane for me. My generation, the worrying about your retirement is not really at the forefront of our minds because things are just different from the way they were back when our parents was doing, their thing, and they was ready, but like we just don't really have the education. So, like I said, I started to think about all the free information that's available today, and why don't more people take the leap of faith that's necessary to kind of start to manage their own retirement plan, their own finances? Like, why do we feel like that's such a older generation thing that they should worry about, but we don't have to worry about it, right? And it's just like my generation, and when I say my generation, I'm gonna say from I'll go from the age of 30, and I'll carry it all the way through 50. Let's say from 30 to 50, this generation, we've lived through the most change, right? And it's crazy when you sit back and think, and I'm sure you've had this conversation with friends and family, because I constantly had the conversation with friends and family. We lived through the cell phone, we lived through video games, we lived through the internet, and change comes and it's inevitable, and there's nothing you can do about the change. And so that kind of just lets you know, like, hey, life comes at you fast, and there's some things that you probably ought to take care of, and some things that you probably ought to, prep for. So just think about the internet in general, right? When the internet first came, we know that we had to have, and mind you, this is when it came to us, to regular people. We had to have that AOL CD with the time on it that you would pop in, and then it would do all the things that the computer has to do to get ready to get you online. But a lot of us don't really realize by that point that it made it into our house, the internet had already been around for like 5, 6 years. And so it was new to us, but the government and the military and all these other people were already using this stuff. And, it's funny because I talked to my mom about, the change and things like that. I remember my mom telling me like she was scared to death of email, and she worked at the state. And she was like, when they first told us about email, I'm like, man, what is this email stuff? And like my mom was doing her thing because she went to typewriting class and got a state job back in her day. So that's all she had to do, learn how to type, and got a job, a good job. You know what I mean? So then when the technology started to come in, she remembers being kind of nervous and like, man, what is this strange stuff? But, some of these things, they come, they're new, and they stick with us. And so just I beg the question to myself too, like with all of this new technology and things going on, like why don't we take more control of our finances? It's not because the financial advisor is necessarily more educated or smarter than you. The information is the same, and is at our fingertips. So like, why don't we start to control our own lives and our own retirement plans and our own finances? Like, when are we going to start betting on ourselves? Because if we know how they do the pension plan, the retirement plans, and all of those things, they're taking your money and they're just dumping it into whether the stock market, bonds, whatever the case may be. They're putting your money somewhere you don't have a clue. You could easily do the same thing with a little bit of education. Get on YouTube University and you can get it popping too. Um, Carrying on. So I think I think this generation needs to take it a little more serious as far as to prepare for when you want to retire. Me, man, it's crazy every time I think about it. I'm 40 and approaching 41 quickly. And there are some things that I need to set in place. And I know I need to take this more seriously. But at the same time, when I do have conversations like this with my dad and things, I have to be under the realization that these things are changing, and I can't necessarily take the advice that someone like my dad gives me on these things, because I know what's changing. He doesn't necessarily know the changes that's happening, but I do. The information is out there, so you need to move accordingly, right? And so it's really a couple of things. I want to point out two things that we could do in order to kind of get ourselves situated on the right path. Now, a lot of us lack discipline. I lack discipline. especially when it comes to saving and spending, putting aside rainy days. If you really want to get serious with those areas of our life, there's two things that I'm gonna show you that you could easily do with a little bit of discipline. That is, in all honesty, probably better than a pension plan or a retirement plan. But it takes just a little leap of faith and a little, educating yourself and a little faith to do this, right? So the first thing, Mike, I'm gonna have you go ahead and throw up the picture about this silver, right? And so just take a look at this picture. This is the price of silver per ounce right here. You see, they usually only run Monday through Friday. So let's just say Friday, it was $33.88, right? And this particular picture is a year to date picture. So this is what it's done this year. It's up 41%. And that sounds crazy because it's only $9.83 that has been up. But just imagine putting your money into silver a year ago and you made 41% on that. That's better than any retirement plan you're going to get. That's better than any savings account you're going to get. And some of you know, like with my son Uriah, whenever he gets money and he has enough to buy a silver ounce, we go to the store and we buy an ounce. And so he's so excited whenever I tell him. He was buying ounces when they were like $19, $20 an ounce. It wasn't that long ago. You see the year to date is up $9. And so I'm like, Uriah, you made $5 this week. And he's like, I made $5. I'm like, you made $5 in your sleep, dude. And he got a $50 bill in his little bank right now. I told him, look, we need to go turn that into something else because the dollar ain't gonna do it. A lot of people they scared to save silver and gold and things like that, but it's super beneficial. And so that's silver, right? We're gonna take a look at the gold. Mike, hook us up with the gold one, right? And so this right here is the craziest when you really look at it. Again, another year to date. Gold is up year to date, $765.90. 38%. So if you bought gold a year ago, you made $765.90. That is crazy. And so, and mind you, the information that I'm into and the things that I like to look up, they're saying that a lot of these assets, gold and silver and precious metals, they're being suppressed, which means the big money, they're keeping the prices low. But they're talking about revaluing these things because if we kind of look at how the US dollar is doing this thing right now, it's not the greatest asset to hold right now. But they're talking about revaluing some of these things. And so just think, it's as simple as being able to buy, let's say, a month. Okay, I'm whatever you put towards your savings, your retirement, your pension plan right now. If you could just put a percentage, like, I'm gonna go buy a gold ounce, a half an ounce, a gram, whatever the case may be, a silver ounce. Just if we could be disciplined enough to just start to do that and let it sit, because the reality is, if your money's sitting in the bank, you're not making money. You would do much better if you want to hold cash. You would do much better holding gold or silver for a long term because you're going to clearly make money. Like I said, that's a lot of gains from that gold, and there's a lot of gains from silver because if the silver is 33 an ounce right now and it goes up $10 over the year, like you can buy a lot of silver ounces. Anyway, I'm not going to keep beating you all over the head with that, but I bring those two examples up just to show that it's not as difficult as people think it is to say, hey, I want to save money. I want to prepare. What can I do with the dollars that I have now that's not super technical? It's not putting your money in the stock market. It's not having to, people like to say, day trade. It's not doing any of that. It's simply saying, look, I got $100 that I want to save today. So instead of saving this $100 bill, I'm going to go to you can go to the coin and gold dealer and say, hey, what can I get with this 100? They'll give you what you can get for that 100. Then you just put that away. That's it. And it's easier sometimes because if you want to spend the discipline, right, we go and we dig into that cash. If you got $1,000 sitting in the closet and you like, let me go scrape off $60, $70 real quick. And so if you got 5 gold ounces in the closet. Now all of a sudden it ain't so easy to go scrape off $60 because now you got to get the gold, you got to go to the store, you got to talk to them. It's beneficial to save money in these ways. And this is just one of the simplest ways to get ahead, to start to prepare, to start to take control of your own retirement plan and your own finances. And it's really a fun thing to do because the coins, they got different pictures and they represent certain things. And like I said, my son, he has a fun time. He loves going in and looking at which collectible coin he can get today. This one got a panda bear on it. Oh, that one got Spider-Man on it. Like, it's really fun once you get into it. Um, so again, the world is changing every day. So it's either changing right in front of your eyes or it's changing under your nose. Me, I prefer for it to change right in front of my eyes because that means I'm looking and I see what's going on, right? And I'm asking you and I'm encouraging you to pay attention so that the world doesn't change under your nose because you don't want things to just pop up. You want to see things coming and you want to be able to prepare, right? But let's touch a little bit more on technology, right? And so I'm gonna tell a couple of little stories about myself as we dive into technology and how technology is changing the world. And so we're gonna go back to around 2017. And really for giggles, I'm gonna go ahead and toot my own horn real quick because I'm not big on what is it, the signs. I don't even know what to call them. I'm about to call it astronomy or like I don't know what it is, but whatever y'all call the signs, people that's into that and Aquarius, and I'm Aquarius, so for giggles, we gonna look at what the Aquarius side is about. So Mike, throw that Aquarius overview up for me, if you will. And so yes, it says Aquarians are often considered to be ahead of their time. And so when I look at this, I say, yes, Aquarians are often ahead of their time, right? So I get a kick out of that. They're ideal people. Aquarians are ideal people who can come up with ideas that seem to come from the future. Aquarians are ruled by Uranus, the planet of innovation, inventions, and space travel. I ain't even gonna touch that. I don't know nothing about none of that. Intellectual smarts. Aquarians have the intellectual smarts and engineering skills to have a plan on how to save the world. I feel like I saved the world with all kind of ideas I got in my head. And trendsetters, right? And so Aquarians are futuristic trendsetters who are often light years ahead of the mainstream. And so I say all of that just so I can toot my own horn right now because of this next story I'm about to tell you from back in 2017, right? Because all of this got a point. And so my point is, by puffing myself up like that, is to say simply with technology, right? Back in 2017, I created, now I'm going to say this and I'm going to say it bold because it's a fact for me. I created Versus before Versus was Versus. We all know Versus came out, what was that, when the pandemic hit. So we late into 2019, 2020, right? And so I created that whole situation in 2017 before it was a thing, right? Before the pandemic. And I got proof, and I'm going to show you my proof too, because why Aquarians were light years ahead of our time, right? And so I created this live streaming app. It was called bigstage.live, right? And it was an idea that I had. It made sense to me in 2017. I'm like, yo, we need a live streaming concert app that people can watch concerts from their own home. And that's pretty much what I was attempting to do, right? So it's interesting because most people are familiar with Silicon Valley out in California, where, a lot of tech companies start up. They get started out there. Venture capital firms are out there. Everybody knows about Silicon Valley. But what most people don't know is that the Midwest is actually pretty huge in the tech industry. I think more specifically here in Columbus in particular, right? It's a hub for technology, and most people don't have a clue about what Columbus is doing and the type of innovation that's taking place in Columbus. And that makes me think about a place called Rev One Ventures, right? Rev One Ventures is really kind of located kind of behind Ohio State in the It's kind of between Grandview and Upper Arlington is out there, right? And so just a quick shot of their portfolio. Rev One Ventures is responsible for $170 million in their management portfolio. Now, $170 million is not nothing to just think is not a big deal. Like they're really doing a lot of work in the tech world. And one of the companies that I know that Rev One is responsible for is Cover My Meds. And I'm sure we've seen the Cover My Meds buildings downtown. They had the real dope building they moved to. Cover My Meds was incubated at Rev One, and they really put that company on the map. There's another one that they have. It's called like Rap Chat. It's an app that is still around, but you can go in there. It's like a social media rap app, and you can freestyle on there and all that. So the list goes on and on. But anyway, so Mike, go ahead and throw up that picture that I got, the big stage live, because I need the people to see this, right? So that was the logo. It says the ultimate backstage pass, a live streaming ad. You see the little circle? That's my proof. I had to put that on there. April 20th, 2017 is when I created that. And what that allowed me to do was, so Rev One is really interesting. Back then, every quarter they would bring in 25 different ideas. And with those ideas, you come in and they teach you the basics of starting a company. And they will show you how to create an MVP. That is a minimal viable product. And it was a 3-day intensive 8-hour program that they literally showed you how to create the product, how to market the product, how to do surveys on a product, how to make the most smallest piece of it, the smallest amount that you needed to actually start it, right? And so when I went there, I learned a ton about technology, and they actually really liked the idea. They have you at the end of the 3-day session, they have you put together a pitch deck. Pitch deck is when you put your idea on the PowerPoint and you present it to hopefully win a prize or some money or something like that. So I did the pitch deck for it, and I actually did really good. They really liked it. The only reason they didn't decide to keep me as a project was because I didn't have nobody near the proper team to build that thing. It was me, one of my homeboys in Denver, and like nobody had any tech experience. We didn't know how to build an app. We didn't know how to program nothing. We just had an idea. But I firmly believe if I was in a position to really have the right people in place to build that app, it would have been a thing. And so since it wasn't a thing, then somebody got the great idea to come up with Versus, and, and Versus is what it is today. But Aquarians, they're ahead of their time. I created Versus before Versus was a thing. So that's, again, me tooting my own horn. Anyways, carrying on. When I spent that time, those 3 days there at Rev One, it was the first time I learned about blockchain technology. And blockchain technology is a very foreign concept when it comes to what it actually is to a lot of people. But so 2017, when I first heard what blockchain technology was, I knew that it was a part of that thing that's going to change the way that the world operates, right? And so in order to help you understand, because part of what I want to get across today on this episode is the world is changing. We need to recognize that. We need to see how it's changing, and we need to see how we can benefit. We need to not be the people in the early 90s that was scared of the internet, that was scared of email, that was scared of whatever the internet encompassed, that was scared of putting a payment through on the website. Like, people were really scared of that stuff, but there were a lot of people that made a lot of money during that time, the ones who wasn't scared. And so let's just touch base on what blockchain technology is, Mike. And I'm gonna have you throw up that blockchain technology explain box up, right? And so we're going to get into this, and just follow along. You're going to understand what blockchain is when I get done explaining this, right? And so when you look at these pictures, The number one there is information recorded in a block. And so we'll know we typically are informed on what a ledger is. And a ledger is simply a piece of paper or a notebook, a tablet that you write down information on. That's a ledger. The banks use ledgers, they write down information, right? And so when we look at this example, it says information is recorded on a block. And so that information that we would typically write down on a piece of paper is digitally recorded online, on software, on the internet, and it's placed into that block. You see that paper getting placed into that square block, right? And so now number two, we have once the block is full, it's chained to the rest of the blocks in the database. And so once that block is full of information, once that glass of water is full, it's connected to the other glasses of water. So that block is full of information. It gets connected to the next block, right? And then you get down to three. Once that block is full, another block is added to record more information. That's not what it says. I ad-libbed on that number three. But essentially, so you got digital information being recorded, is placed in the side of this block, and the block is connected to the other information, another block when it's full, and then a new block is created. That is essentially all you need to know about blockchain technology. Like it's not as crazy as it sounds once you really get into exactly what it is, right? And so what we're going to do now, I want to make it a little more simple to try to help you understand the real life aspect of what blockchain technology can do. Because when I was at Rev 1, the time that I heard blockchain technology explained, they were using it in a title company that somebody was pitching and trying to create. And most people know the title company is the company that you go to and sign all your paperwork when you're buying any sort of real estate. So let's look at that next one, Mike. It's the blockchain technology, the AI overview. Okay, so how can blockchain technology be utilized in real world? So blockchain technology can be used in a title company to improve the process of transferring property ownership, reducing fraud, and increasing security. And so the title company is going to use the blockchain to pretty much transfer the property ownership, reducing fraud and increasing security. The next one, it talks about record keeping. Like it improves record keeping in the way that it improves. I'll explain that in a second. So we got record keeping, we got transparency, efficiency, and security, right? And fraud reduction. And so the interesting thing about blockchain technology, when the information is recorded, when it's placed in a block and it's secure, nobody can get to it. And the part that is record keeping is because no one can then go back and change the information. If you got a paper ledger in the file cabinet, anybody can go in there, put some whiteout on it. They can change the information, make it say whatever they want to say. They can forge names and things like that. But that's not true with blockchain technology. Once the information is digitally stored, nobody can go through and change. If somebody manages to get into a block and change a block, it allows you to immediately know when it was changed, who accessed it, and all of those things. And anyone who's ever bought a home, you know that that's beneficial because then you got to go through deeds and all of those things. And all of these information will be stored securely online in a safe place that can't be tampered with. That's all blockchain technology is. Can it get more technical and difficult? It can. But for the sake of you hearing about this, maybe somebody for the first time, is literally just information that's digitally stored, that's protected, that nobody can tamper with, and it just streamlines the process of things that you're trying to do, right? And so I'm assuming that you follow me with that information, and I know that it could be a lot sometime if it's your first time hearing it, but if you need to rewind, listen to it again, right? But I'm just trying to make the point that is not as difficult as people on YouTube, people on Twitter, people on Facebook, people on Instagram. A lot of people like to try to make this stuff sound really technical and difficult because they want to appear as the person that knows these things that you don't know, but it's really not that deep. All right. So let's call the blockchain technology, let's just call that an environment, right? So that's a software environment. And now in order to move around in that environment, you have to have a certain vehicle. That vehicle is actually called crypto. But in the more accurate term to that vehicle would be digital assets. And and I realized that the word crypto is a buzzword for 90% of people. And once the problem is when you hear about crypto, you've only been introduced to what crypto is or what crypto could do and what it does. You don't really have the understanding of what it's actually used for. And once you realize what the digital assets and crypto is actually used for, it makes a lot more sense, right? And so the best way that I've ever heard it explained was, let's look at the blockchain environment technology is Chuck E. Cheese. A lot of us know what Chuck E. Cheese is. If you're not from Columbus and you don't know what Chuck E. Cheese is, let's say Magic Mountain, but most people might not know what Magic Mountain is. Let's say just your typical arcade, okay? But we're gonna go with Chuck E. Cheese. The blockchain environment, look at it as Chuck E. Cheese. But once you get inside of Chuck E. Cheese, you realize that you need something to participate. You need something to play the games. You need something to play the games to get the tickets. You need the tickets so you can win the stuffed animals, the toys, or whatever the case may be. And simply put, the crypto or the digital assets are simply the coins, the Chuck E. Cheese coins, to facilitate playing the games in the environment. And so like that's really the most simple way to understand the purpose of what crypto is. And I understand that there's a lot of negative light around cryptocurrency, and people have made money, people have lost money, and a lot of us just don't really know what it is. But that's why I'm trying to explain to you. It's not a scary thing. Crypto and digital assets are the coins inside of the blockchain environment, the coins inside of the Chuck E. Cheese, in order to move around the environment and be able to participate. So I'm hoping that that makes sense, because once you really take a look at society and understand what's going on in the world, you see these technologies being adopted. A lot of the world is going on blockchain technology because of the way that they can safeguard information. And since they're going on blockchain technology, they're going to use these digital assets to operate inside of that environment, right? But the important thing to note about that is that gives an opportunity, right? And the opportunity is for us to look at what it is, look at what it does, and to potentially benefit financially off of that, right? Because we're talking about taking control of your finances. We're talking about taking control of your retirement plan. Life is changing. Let's wake up and see what the heck is actually going on to see how we can benefit from what's changing, right? And so there's a story that I want to tell about, let's call it cryptocurrency, because that's essentially what it is. And it's about Dogecoin. A lot of people have heard Elon Musk talk about Dogecoin. He made Dogecoin popular. Also, back around 2018, me and some of my buddies, it was my boy Frank at the time, and my boy Shell at the time also. It was a couple of us all in our group chat. And actually, Frank was telling us about, he was out in Denver, and he was telling us about the people that he played basketball with out there. They were these white boys in finance who have the conversation that we typically don't have, but he was privy to the conversation and he was bringing the conversation back to us. Like, yo, y'all got to look at this crypto stuff, and Bitcoin was big back then because it was kind of just starting off. And he was like, yo, let's just look at this. Let's download this Coinbase app so we can just look at this stuff. And we was buzzing, looking at it, having fun with it for like a month. And there was one in particular, me being that Aquarius, I'm looking at this one and I'm like, yo, Dogecoin, it just sounds funny. I looked into it, did research on it. It really wasn't about nothing. It was just, they call them meme coins, and meme coins don't really do anything for anybody. They're jokes and they're just for fun. And that's where a lot of people lose money because they don't realize that meme coins are just for fun. And a lot of people, because there's no real legislation or rules around the environment yet, people make things up and they steal people's money. So you got to be careful. Don't just jump into this stuff thinking you know what you're doing. Anyway, besides the point. So Dogecoin, I remember saying like, man, it's super cheap. Like if I put $30 on Dogecoin, I can have like 40 million Dogecoins. And it sounded cool to me at the time. So I'm like, I'm going to do it. So this was like 2018. I had like 40 million Dogecoin. And I know specifically what I did with it. It was about a month in, the buzz had died down between the chat and talking about the digital assets and the crypto. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and get my $30 back. I'm going to go ahead and cash out. And it ain't really going to be nothing. It ain't no big deal. And so I cashed out my $30 and I went to Pizza Hut. I know for a fact that I went to Pizza Hut. Fast forward. These things are on like 4-year cycles. Like you go down for 4 years, then they go up for 4 years. They move just like kind of how the stock market moves. Fast forward, I hear Elon Musk said something about Dogecoin. Now all of a sudden people are buzzing Dogecoin this, Dogecoin that. And I said, you know what? That's the same one I had. I told my boy Wheezy Shell. I'm like, yo, you hear they talking about Dogecoin? He like, yeah, I heard about that. Like, man, we had it. And I'm like, when I looked at the price of what that meme coin, that Dogecoin did, it literally would have turned my $30 into like $700,000. You talking about sick in the stomach. He talking about I was done. I mean, I went through emails. Did I really sell it? Do I still got it somewhere? Did I just lose it? I need to find the email. Do I need to find the password, the username, the login? Like I went digging through emails. I'm just typing Coinbase in, looking for all of this stuff. It was gone. And I knew deep down it was gone because I had went to the Pizza Hut and got that daggone pizza. But so what that did for me though, is it was like, yo, you know what? Like I missed that boat. But the way that my brain works, I'm like, you know what? If I could have did it back then, if I could have did it once, I got to be able to do it again. And so that kind of led me on the journey of really diving into to look at what blockchain technology does. And so now I'm like, okay, so that was a meme coin. It didn't really mean anything to anybody, but is there some serious stuff out there that's really purposeful and really has a use case in that, you know, the world is going to end up really using? And so I'm like, what is really out there? So I started to do a deep dive, and, really what I found out was how there's really a worldwide financial system being built. And right now, I would say it's being built under our nose because a lot of us don't really realize what the world governments are doing. They're starting to really buy a lot of the gold. They're starting to buy a lot of the silver. We know that our dollar isn't backed by gold or anything else right now, and it once was. A lot of us know that. But like what's happening is they're eventually going to go back to being backed by commodities like gold and silver. And so when you see the world banking system starting to implement blockchain technology in the way that the banks move, and you see that these new cryptocurrencies or digital assets are being created to move around inside of that environment, you start to see like, whoa, wait a minute. They're really putting together a new world financial system. How can I best tap into this and really figure out how to benefit from this? And so one of them in particular that I found, it allows for cross-border payments. So let's say if you wanted to send money from the United States to Russia, so you wanted to send $1 million US to Russia, turn it into the Russian ruble, right? It would take you 7 to 10 business days to send that $1 million from the United States to Russia. 7 to 10 days sound crazy. And to make it more plain for us, like If you go to Macy's and you buy something on your card and you like, I don't want this no more. I'm gonna return it back. Macy's is telling you what 4 to 6 or 7 days for your money to be back on your card. That sounds crazy. That's on a real world example, but in the banking system, it's taking them days to send that million. It's taking them days to send my $17. But what I learned is that this new technology that they're building is instant payment. And so now all of a sudden, when I go to Macy's and I take back that $17 shirt, I fully got $17 back in my bank account before I walk out the store. That's life changing to a lot of people. And so think about the banks that take 10 days to send $1 million. This new technology that they're making in the blockchain environment using these digital assets, they're now sending hundreds of millions of dollars in seconds. And that's life changing for businesses because there are a lot of businesses that are waiting to get things from China, but China need to get their money first, but the money is being held up somewhere else. Like it's a mess. I'm not even going to get into explaining all of that type of stuff, but I'm simply saying the world is changing. Technology is coming in and is changing the way that information and money moves around. How can you best benefit from the change that's coming? Do the research, ask the right questions. Don't be scared of what's coming. And the window is getting small simply because there aren't a lot of rules around. And I said that earlier, right? There's a lot of things to look at and say, I'm gonna put my money in this or I'm gonna put my money in that. But like you really gotta do the research because, like I said, there are no rules around this yet. But the government is putting rules in place under our nose as we speak. Just like when I said earlier, when the internet made it to us, America Online, in the CDs to in the mail to us, they had already been using it for years. And this is the same thing. And I want to show this picture. Mike, can you throw up the Fit 21 bill picture really quick? And I think it's the one before that one because we're gonna talk about that one next too. But anyway, so the Fit 21 bill, it's called the Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act. And really what that is telling us is, it is a watershed movement in the U.S. digital asset ecosystem. Fit 21 provides a robust, time-tested consumer protection and regulatory certainty necessary to allow digital assets innovation to flourish in the United States. And so when we think about it, there you go, right there. When we think about it and you look at that, you can see that that's a House bill. And so the government is preparing to put these things into the environment. And I'm telling you, as soon as they get these things, the rules and regulations down, it's over with. It's just going to be a different world that we living in, right? And so the moral of the story is really that change is coming whether we like it or not. If you are somebody who is, conscious of how you want your finances to be later in life, your retirement plan, your pension plan, and you're into, stocks and things like that. Like, I want to encourage you to take a look at digital assets and look at blockchain technology to actually see what these things are because they're coming. I can't even say they coming. They're here. They're being utilized under our nose, and a lot of times we don't really know. A lot of our banks are already on the system. They're just simply waiting for the rules to be put in place. The internet came, it stuck around. People thought it was a fad. This new blockchain technology is here. People don't think it's a big deal, but it's really a big deal. How can your family best take advantage of the change that's coming today? I've said it before. People made a lot of money. They call it the dot-com boom. Look at the dot-com boom. Google that. People made a lot of money during that era because they weren't afraid to invest certain monies into certain companies and certain technologies that was being created when the internet first came online. So just Take a look at this. And Mike, go ahead, throw that one picture back up with all the colors and all the different, yeah, that right there. This right here is pretty much a cheat sheet. Granted, I'm not going to say which ones you should or shouldn't do because I'm not no financial advisor, but I will say out of all of these, they're all really good to do research on. I will say Ripple and XRP is a really good one that you need to look into. I'm going to say XDC. That's a really good one that you need to look into. And I'm going to say Stellar. That's also another really good one that you look into. Like you need to look into all of these, but I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of these are not even $1. So you can get into some of these things. Like that Stellar one, I think is like less than 10 cents a piece right now. The XDC is like 3 cents right now. The Ripple XRP is like 51 cents right now. And as a reference, and I'm not trying to get you to think that, I'm not going to throw no crazy numbers out, but I will say that when Bitcoin was first created, Bitcoin was once $1. Bitcoin was once 50 cents. Bitcoin was once 25 cents. And it's approaching $70,000 right now. Bitcoin was a test. Bitcoin was to get people used to the idea. Bitcoin was put out there to see how it would operate. And it was 50 cents at one time. The Dogecoin that I had was way less than a penny. And I think at its height, Dogecoin went from way less than a penny. I'm talking about zeros, like 5 or 6 zeros deep into less than a penny. And it hit 75 cents. That's why that 30,000 would have turned into like 700. And so, all in all, this is a lot of information I've thrown at y'all today. And I feel like it's good to have these conversations because we're not privy to a lot of these rooms. And so I'm bringing a lot of these rooms and a lot of the research to the forefront to try to give you a basic understanding so that you can have somewhere to start from. Hit me up on IG, fintech.murph. That's what the fintech stands for. A lot of people don't know what that means, but fintech is literally financial technology because that's what I'm into right now. I like doing the research. I like looking. And it's what's fun to me. You got a question? Shoot me a message on DM, whatever you want to call it. PM. I don't know what y'all calling it these days, but hit me up. We can talk about it. It's never going to be a scenario to where I'm only telling you something because I can make money. Like I do what I do with my own money. And if you're interested in seeing what you can do with your own money, hit me up. I'll tell you. Anybody that know me knows if I know something that you want to know, shoot me a message. I give you all the information I got. I don't make money from talking about none of this stuff. I don't make money from telling you where to buy or what you should look into. So just if you're deciding to take on the maniacal mindset of wanting to think about the next thing that's possibly coming, wanting to take control of your own finances, wanting to, just live life on the edge just a little bit. Because the people that live life on the edge just a little bit, they come out on top. Sometimes it's a waiting game. And I'm telling you right now, that window is closing. Regulations are coming out. Blockchain technology is here. I seen it back the first time in 2017 with my verses before verses was verses. And it ain't went nowhere and it's going to be here to stay. So, like I said, love it or hate it, take it or leave it. The information is out there. It's not scary. Tap in with me, fintech.murph on IG. Ask a question if you need to ask a question. There's plenty of videos I can send you out. But, until next time, be maniacal. Me and my man Mike is about to get out of here. Mike, go ahead and drop that intro because they need to relax because I just overloaded the sensories with this information right now, but it's beneficial and don't be scared. Go ahead and give them something to listen to, Mike.